It's such a beautiful joy and beautiful blessing to be with you all today on this beautiful Saturday and to be with my dear and beloved friend, Arielle Ford. Arielle is a world-renowned expert on all things love. How we can feel, experience, know, be, share love in our lives, and how we can attract love to us from the universe so that we can experience and feel even more love. She's a world-renowned and best-selling author, speaker, coach, and she's now written her very first novel, a fiction novel about a young woman named Holly, who, after experiencing heartbreak and betrayal, she comes to India. She comes to Rishikesh. She comes to the banks of Mother Ganga, to the lap of the Himalayas, and finds there healing, freedom, and a whole new way of living her life. And it's a beautiful, beautiful novel. It's exciting. It's an adventure. It's spiritually uplifting. It's beautifully written. And I know that this summer, it's something that so many people are taking with them wherever they go on their holidays, because the book just came out in the end of June. And in this just over a month since it's been out, it has been the favorite book of so many people this summer on airplanes, in hotels, on beaches, in their own home. Wherever people are spending the summer, people are reading this book, loving the exciting adventure story of it. But more than that, they're really finding their own inspiration, their own upliftment. And for me, what's so fun and beautiful about the book is that Holly, the main woman in it, in coming to Rishikesh, she comes to Parmarth Niketan Ashram, the ashram where I live. She has the blessings of my guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji, the president of Parmarth Niketan. And she comes to satsang. She comes, and I have this beautiful opportunity in satsang and after satsang to interact with her and to guide her in so many ways that I was healed and transformed and guided in Rishikesh and on the banks of Ganga. So it's beautiful to be together here with Arielle. And Arielle, first of all, there's people who get betrayed and heartbroken and hurt all over the world every day. They do all sorts of things to respond to or to react to the pain that they feel inside. Why did you send Holly to India and Rishikesh? Why was Rishikesh the place that when you were writing this book, you knew after her heartbreak, after her betrayal, this woman is going to go to Rishikesh?
Well, Holly was not a seeker. Holly was a reaction to her mother and her auntie, who were both New Age baby boomers. So she grew up with dream catchers over her crib. And her whole life, her mother and her auntie were talking to her about meditation and yoga and quantum physics and law of attraction. And she just thought all that was nonsense, not at all interested. And then she goes through this experience. She's been spending her whole life, searching for the one, waiting for Prince Charming to show up on his white horse. And it finally happens right before she turns 38. Her baby clock is going wild. She thinks that she's finally going to have the life she always dreamed of. And then he betrays her with her best friend, who's also her business partner. And so she now has her heart broken, and her dreams of this white picket fence life are crushed. And on top of that, she gets into a car accident and nearly dies. So as she's in this state of emotional, spiritual, and physical recovery, her auntie sends her a check for $10,000. Now, her auntie was born in India, educated in America, and is an attorney in San Diego. And the auntie says to her, listen, I was going to give you this $10,000 as a wedding gift, but I'm going to give it to you now as a recreate your life gift. And since you're a chef, I suggest you go to my cousin's cooking school in Rishikesh and learn how to make some Indian comfort food. And when you come home, I'll have a part-time job for you cooking for my parents. So Holly goes off to Rishikesh, having no clue that it is, the yoga meditation capital of the universe, that seekers are there, by the hundreds of thousands every year looking to become enlightened. That's not why she's there. She's just, wanting to learn how to cook a few good dishes and hopefully heal her heart. And she gets to Rishikesh, non-believer that she is, and miracles start to happen every day. She ends up being befriended by the owner of a spiritual bookstore, who is also a retired shrink. And he offers her healing, and she actually inadvertently offers him healing. And he tells her, there's an ashram across the river. You should go at sunset, go for the arti experience. There's also a satsang with this woman named Sadhviji, and your picture is on his counter. Swamiji's picture's on the counter. And so with completely inadvertently, she is guided to the places where she's going to get solace and healing and understanding, because she's a good girl. She's an all-American good girl. She's attractive, but not beautiful. She's smart, but not brilliant. She doesn't have ridiculous goals for her life, unlike many people in her generation. She doesn't want to be a famous influencer. She just wants to cook good food, get married, have some babies and a dog, and lead a simple life. And it looks like it's not going to happen. So, at the time that I was writing all of this, it was coming to me as a movie in my head. Like, I didn't sit down one day and map out a book. Oh, this is the story I want to tell, and these are the characters in the story. They all sort of appeared to me. And it wasn't until just today that I realized, oh my God, when Sadhvi got to Rishikesh, she also was not a seeker, right? You didn't go there looking for enlightenment. You were looking for vegetarian food, So there's so much of you and your story that I'm still starting to realize I didn't know was there. I just knew that you were going to be one of her guides, that you would be one of the teachers. And it's an interesting novel in that, a lot of the characters are I used my imagination and I made them up, except for a few. You and Swamiji are real people in the book, right? There's other characters that are really friends of mine that I've changed their names of. So it's as my cat's back there. He wants to be in the show too. So the story is really a story of love and loss and redemption and spiritual growth, even though she wasn't looking for it. And the simplest way to describe it is it's a romantic spiritual thriller that has a juicy revenge subplot and a surprise happy ending. And that's sort of the essence of what it is. I have a Hollywood producer who's going to turn it into a streaming series, and she says it's Eat, Pray, Love meets Dirty John. And that's exactly what it is.
Oh, wonderful. And that's such great news about getting it turned into a Netflix streaming special, because one of the things that I've been hearing from so many people, from mutual friends, from people online, is that this book is something that people are not only enjoying as a novel, as a great fiction story that's full of adventure and whatnot, but much deeper than that, that people are actually feeling like it's a teaching through a story. And I know that you didn't sit down to write this as a teaching book. You've written so many other books that are teaching books about love and life and happiness and all of that. And this was, because I've been there with you as you were going through the process, and this was just going to be a fun fiction novel. And yet it's turned out to be something that people are actually really getting very, very deep lessons from. So I'd love your thoughts on, first of all, what have you been hearing are the real key takeaway lessons that people are walking away with that are helping them transform their lives? And also why you think a fiction novel about a young woman who was betrayed and ends up in Rishikesh and finds healing, why that fictional story is in and of itself something that is giving so many people inspiration and upliftment and healing and tools for their own lives.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things happened. So I had several early readers as I went through the 4.5-year process of writing and rewriting and editing and doing all of that. And I started getting calls from my early readers where they'd call me up in tears and whisper to me, "You wrote this book for me." And it's like, what? What are you talking about? Oh, yes, I had that experience. It was the worst experience of my life. I dated this toxic narcissist who completely devastated me, broke my heart. I feel so much shame that I fell for all of this stuff. And now for the first time through these pages, I feel healed. I feel like somebody understood. I now understand what happened to me. I now have wisdom and knowledge that I didn't have before. So I'll never be in that situation again. And I was just blown away. I thought, I had this composite character, Holly, that for me was 3 girlfriends who had all been through a similar terrible relationship. So I knew the roller coaster of pain they went through, the deep depression and sadness and the unimaginable rage and anger, sometimes all in the same 60 seconds. So I could tap into those conversations to write that part of the story. So what I discovered really when the book was done, that there's a couple of really big takeaways. The first one is what is love? Because at least here in America, most women who are brought up with the Disney fairy tale version of love deeply believe that love is a feeling. I know that I love you because I feels like there's champagne bubbles going through my veins and water tastes wetter and air smells sweeter and I'm swooning all the time. And they think the state that we call being in love is love. And what that state is your brain on drugs. It's your brain on oxytocin and adrenaline and dopamine and serotonin. And it is nature's greatest drug high. I mean, it feels great. It's wonderful, but it is not love. Just because you're having the experience of being in love is actually zero indication that you're at the start of a relationship that can work. What it is nature's trick to get us to procreate, to keep the species going. And it doesn't last long. For most people, it's over in 6 months or at the longest 3 years. And then that's gone. So then you have to ask, well, if that's not love, what is? And love, from my understanding, because I've dedicated myself to being a student of love for the last couple of decades, love is a behavior. Love is a choice. Love is a decision. Love is an action. Love is a way of being. And you can deeply love somebody and have days when you don't like them at all. You might even hate them. And it doesn't mean that you don't love them. But if you think love is this swept away feeling, and that's how you're basing whether or not you're going to be in a relationship, your relationships are never going to last very long, because those feelings are just a drug high. I like to call the state of being in love the socially acceptable form of insanity. All right. That's really what it is. Now, does it feel great? Yes. Do I think everybody should experience it? Yes. And you need to know on this path to finding a life partner, you can't choose somebody simply on those feelings. And our mutual friend, John Gray, really summed it up really well. Because I asked him one day, it's like, John, you know, like, you know more than anybody on this topic. Like, what is it? What does it take to have a long-term, happy, committed marriage or partnership? And he said it takes 5 things: connection, compatibility, clear communication, which thank God can be learned, chemistry, although strangely enough, chemistry is the least important of the factors. The number one most important factor to relationship success is a shared vision for the future. I want children, you want children. I want to live in the mountains, you want to live in the mountains. I hate the mountains, I want to live at the beach. We both have passports and we love to travel together. Now, it doesn't mean, a shared vision doesn't mean you spend your whole life together 24/7 doing all the same things. But when it comes to your highest, most important core values, you're in alignment. We want to be legally married and live under the same roof 24/7. Or we've both been divorced several times. We want to live a few blocks away from each other and get together twice a week and on holidays, all of which is valid. It's just, do you have that shared vision? So I would say the number one takeaway that I've been hearing from people is starting to really understand what love really is, and knowing the difference between love and the drug high. The other one is that, you know, Holly is now, in the beginning of the book, at the bottom of the pit. Everything that can go wrong with her life has gone wrong, right? Her heart is beyond broken. You know, she's waited her whole life for this to happen, for this Prince Charming to show up. And she really thought she had it. And then she did. And then she nearly dies in this car accident. And now she's not only lost her lover and almost her life, but her best friend and her business partner. There is no part of her life that is working. And he stole all her money. So she has no money anymore. There's nothing else that could go wrong in her life. And she's so miserable. And by the end of the book, if you were to ask Holly, if you could go back and change what's happened to you over the last couple of years, would you change a thing? And she, of course, would say, no, I wouldn't change a thing. All that pain and suffering led to this moment where I now have a dream far beyond anything I could have ever imagined for myself, which I have found to be true in my life. The worst times of my life, and I've had Holly moments. I mean, there was a time in the early 90s where I was on the verge of bankruptcy. I had Epstein-Barr. My boyfriend and I had broken up. Since my business was over, I discovered I didn't like my business, so I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was there. I was at the bottom for more than a year. And in retrospect, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the most painful, but the growth and the opportunities that came out of it were not predictable. So those are the two things: understanding what love really is, and knowing that if this is you in this moment, if your life couldn't suck any worse than it does, it's almost a reason to smile. It just means something is so good that God had to burn down what was there so that you could create a new life.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. And yeah, these are incredibly powerful life lessons, and they're lessons that so many of us learn in different ways. And I'm so glad that people are taking this out of the novel rather than just out of to-do books. Let's talk for a minute about forgiveness and letting go, because as we move into Holly's transformation and the lessons that people themselves are taking from her extraordinary adventure, I know that for me, in my real life, true story of healing and transformation in Rishikesh, that forgiveness and letting go were core and critical aspects, non-negotiable components, and that was really what catalyzed for me so much of the transformation. Tell me about the path that Holly went through with all of this betrayal and the heartbreak and that which had been done to her. You've given a lot of things from the plot. I don't want to give away too much more, but tell me about her experience and her journey around forgiveness and letting go, and why, as the author, you did it in that way. What are you sharing with people through Holly about forgiveness and letting go?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything harder than getting to forgiveness. And, one of the lessons Holly learns in the book, her guide / guru is a man named Deepak. And, he's constantly saying, Holly, you're going to have to forgive them at some point. And she's still in the state of, there's no possible way. I'm never going to forgive them. She has so much rage and she gets triggered so easily. And of course, rage and anger are new to her. I mean, she didn't grow up being able to express anger. And truthfully, she has never felt anger like this. She's never felt her heart so ripped open. And Deepak explains to her, he said, listen, you were betrayed in the biggest way possible. And the reason why betrayal hurts so much is that because you can only be betrayed by people that you loved and you thought that you thought they loved you. Because if it was just some stranger that did, let's say you get ripped off, you can feel really bad about being scammed, but you're going to get over it. You have no personal connection. But here you have two people that you gave your heart and soul, and to one of them many years of your life, and now they've taken your biggest dream and stomped all over it. And you can't think, how am I going to forgive them? And there's this, and the anger comes in waves. It's a lot like grief, except it feels very different, because when you're grieving, you don't want to kill somebody. When you're that level of anger, you're having violent thoughts. There's this one scene where Holly's actually having a dream where she sees her ex-fiance boiling in a vat of oil, and she's feeling tremendous relief and joy in her dream, and is disappointed when she wakes up and figures out he's not dead yet. So getting to forgiveness was really hard, and it was a slow process, and it gets seeded in slowly. But finally, towards the end of the book, Holly does get to one very big point of forgiveness with one of them. I won't give it away which one. And she realizes, she says to this person, because she says, I forgive you and I thank you, because if you hadn't done what you did to me, I would have had a miserable life. You exposed the evil that this person really was. And although it was the most painful thing, and I'm not sure, I don't know that we could ever be friends again, I forgive you. And she really meant it. She really was able, but it is hard. There's nothing harder. It's like, oh, I wish I could forgive. Like I just realized the other day, so I'm 70 now, and it's true, when you get older, your memory starts to slip. And I was thinking about somebody that I hadn't talked to in a really long time, and I was going to be seeing them. And normally I'd be apprehensive, oh, I'll be seeing so-and-so. But then it was like, oh, I can't even remember what happened. I can't remember why I don't like them. I don't know. So I might as well just be done with it. So that's been an unexpected blessing. That's happened with me 3 times this year, where it's like, now what caused the rift? And I don't know. So since I don't know, how could I still be angry about something I've totally forgotten? Must not have been that important.
Yeah, it's very beautiful, because so many of us carry anger and pain and grudges from the past into the present, even.
Oops. You froze up there, Sadhvi. We got a little freeze thing going on. Well,
Are we good now?
oh, you're back.
Okay. So I was saying, it's so sad because what so many of us do is we
Oh, you froze again. Come back, Sadhvi, come back. Oh. Well, while we're waiting for you to come back, I want to give you one very interesting statistic about betrayal. I'm still on, so I'll wait for Sadhvi to come back. But the experts who study love as anthropologists have discovered that overcoming betrayal is harder than overcoming a cocaine addiction. So if you're someone who's suffering from betrayal and it seems to go on, be a little gentle with yourself. It's really hard to get over because there are so many chemicals in your brain, and you were bonded to this person and you may still love them. Now, this doesn't mean you should ever go back together with them or have them in your life, but it's actually okay to love somebody even if they're not in your life. You just find a little space in your heart and you can continue to love them, but not allow them to energetically, physically, emotionally be a part of your life. You got to create some boundaries there for some people, or what I have done. There are certain people in my life that, you're related to them, or they've been friends for 30 years, and you can't completely cut them out, and they're not dangerous. Maybe they're just highly annoying. And those are the people I see or I connect with in what I call homeopathic doses, just in homeopathic little spaces. Talk to them a couple times a year for 10 minutes, wish them well, but don't spend a lot of your very precious life and very precious time actually doing stuff with them. So those are some of the lessons of the love thief. But mostly it's fun. It's it's one woman called it, she said it's a rip rollicking spiritual love story, complete with a narcissist villain and magnetic healers and sages. What a tale Arielle has cooked up as she guides us on a delicious trip to magical India, a must read. And that was from Sherry Salata, who was the executive producer of the Oprah show for 20 years. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great beach read. And you can get it at the website. It's at thelovethief.com. And if you go there to get it, there's an incredible free bonus. And Sadhvi actually helped me put the bonus together. It's 8 of the world's top yoga teachers who each took one difficult emotion and then does a video on the yogic philosophy and yoga poses. So it's healing betrayal, healing heartbreak, healing anger, how to deal with uncertainty, reconnecting to the divine. So at thelovethief.com, you can get all those videos for free when you buy the book through the website. You're back. I've been entertaining your friends.
Oh, how wonderful. I've got some very, very strange internet karma, because it's one thing when I'm in Rishikesh and the electricity is going out and it's a rainstorm and whatnot. And yet here I am in Los Angeles at my parents' house on a LAN cable connection that theoretically should be perfect. I think I've got some very interesting internet karma in this lifetime. But in any case, I was saying before we cut out about how powerful this lesson of letting go is that you bring in the book, and the ability to recreate our lives. Because I think one of the things that happens so frequently is we get hurt, we get betrayed, we get heartbroken, and that becomes the story around which our entire lives get written. And everything we do, every way we suffer, everything we don't accomplish ends up being because of this thing that happened to us. And one of the things that I love so much about Holly's journey is she doesn't deny the pain. She doesn't repress it. She doesn't suppress it. We're not talking spiritual bypass here. She goes through it. And then she opens herself up to the possibility of being free of it. And it was that possibility that transformed my life. And so I was so touched to see Holly go through that. And I'm sure that one of the takeaways that a lot of people would come away from this, from reading The Love Thief with, is, oh, even after you've been completely betrayed, you've been completely heartbroken, and you're at death's door physically, in her case from a car accident, in other people's cases from so many different reasons, that actually there still is beautiful grace and beautiful life there for you to open your heart to. So I loved that part, and I loved that lesson. And lastly, I think let's talk for a moment about the power of Rishikesh and the power of the Himalayas and the power of Mother Ganga, because she goes there, her auntie's given her money, and yet, as we know, nothing happens just by coincidence. And I know that Rishikesh has been a really powerful place for you, and that you came and we had this beautiful chance to be together while you were in the midst of writing this book, to really picture it all after having been there before several times. So talk to me for a minute about what Rishikesh and the Himalayas and Ganga mean to you that you've infused Holly with.
Yeah, so as I've said, Holly was not a seeker, right? She was totally not a believer. But, early on in the book, she goes to one of your satsangs, and she, asks the question, basically, how can I heal? And you instruct her to give up her pain and her suffering to Ma Ganga, to give it up to the thing. And she's like, what does that look like? What does that mean? And she meets this man named Kurt at the satsang, who takes her to Vishesta's cave. And the river in back of the cave is quite shallow and much easier to get into than behind or in front of the ashram, right? It's not flowing as fast. And she ends up, she tries it a couple times. She doesn't have an instant manifestation healing, but she eventually just surrenders, just lies back in the water and surrenders, and has this moment of oneness, of what we in the book call santosha, of utter contentment, of letting go and trusting, really trusting that there's a new life for her, and that all she has to do is give up the story. It is a story. Oh, I've been done wrong. I was targeted. I was love bombed. I was ripped off. My money, my career, my friend, my love is all gone. And she surrenders to the river. And then she, of course, has a bunch of funny experiences afterwards, because she keeps thinking, well, when's my pain coming back? Because she had this daily ritual where she would rate her misery level. Like, she'd wake up in the morning, oh, my misery level's still an 8. Or I just went to satsang and my misery level's down to a 3. So, so she's waiting for the misery level to go back up to a 9, and it's not. And she's, she's really, like, she, in a sick, strange way, is missing her pain. And she goes to Deepak to talk to him about it. And he said, Holly, do you remember when you were a little kid and you lost a tooth and you kept sticking your tongue to the empty space in your mouth, searching for the tooth that's no longer there? That's what you're doing with this pain. The pain is gone. Just trust that God, Goddess, the river, Rishikesh has taken your pain, and allow yourself just to be at peace, to enjoy the santosha, enjoy utter contentment, and stop looking for your pain. But it takes her a while, because that was her whole story for many months. Oh, poor me. I nearly died. My heart is crushed. I'm broke. And yet she's starting to see that she doesn't need a plan. So many of us, I'm just now starting to talk about this. So I've been teaching law of attraction for a couple decades now, and I have a lot of proof that it works. Law of attraction 101 works. I am a great manifester. I have manifested all kinds of stuff all the time. But what I've come to see is that is really a low level way of being. That the higher way to be, which Holly finally gets, is to surrender to your destiny. If you can let go and surrender and trust and be in the knowingness that all there is this now moment. And in this now moment, you have everything that you need. Everything will be given to you. There's nothing to worry about. And if you can just open your arms and surrender, things will come to you that exceed your imagination's ability to show you. You can't know it. And that's what happens to Holly, because the stuff that happens to her after she gives her problem to the river, she could not have sat down and said, oh, wouldn't it be lovely if I had a new best friend, and the new best friend was a billionaire, and the new best friend gave me the job of a lifetime, and and I was able to get revenge on my fiance without killing him. I was able to get revenge through justice in the universe. Like she couldn't think like that. She doesn't have the capability. But when everything was so bad and she was willing to give it all up, that's when her life shifted. So I'm just starting to live in this sort of multiple dimensional universe where there's the willful me that has these desires. And then there's this other part of me that's saying, that would be nice, but what if I just see what comes? What if something much better comes than my little thing that I'd like to have this? And so there's a new battle going on between, okay, well, I could do this to make it happen, or I could let go. I could surrender and detach and just see what comes.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think that's one of the most powerful lessons of life. It's certainly been one of the most powerful lessons of my life, of that complete surrender and the level of not just miracles that actually arise in the space that you've created by getting your own ego and attachment and expectations and small vision out of that space, but also the experience of joy and peace and freedom is extraordinary. And I'm so glad to see how you've brought that wisdom, which you've experienced in your life, through Holly, and through Holly to all of those who read and enjoy the book. Lastly, is there anything else that you feel people should know about the Love Thief book itself, or about love in general, that after your decades and decades of experience and expertise around this, that you just want to make sure everyone definitely walks away knowing and remembering?
Well, the thing that I've really learned is that so many women have had the experience of being in a relationship with a toxic narcissist or a sociopath, and they don't know how they got there. They feel like they did something wrong, and really what's happened is that they've been targeted. They are prey. Toxic narcissists are experts at finding smart, beautiful, successful women and then having them fall in love with them. They love bomb them, and then they steal their money and they leave them heartbroken and crushed. And they do it, they hunt. You know, some people hunt for turkeys. These guys hunt for women of means, and they have a whole pattern on how they do it. And if you're the victim of that, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong, because now in retrospect, you can see all the red flags. But at the time, it was impossible for you to see them because they're so expert at what they do. They know exactly how to whisper in your ear and say the things you've always wanted to hear. And they know how to wine and dine and romance you and get you into bed. So you're now oxytocin bonded, and you're now an addict. You're an addict for this man who doesn't really exist. He showed you this sort of, you know, hologram of what would be possible with him. And he told you, oh, our kids are going to be beautiful and we're going to vacation in Tahoe and I'm going to give you the life you've always wanted. And then you're hooked. And then, you know, 2 or 3 months later, who he really is shows up as your bank account is being drained, you know. So you need to know it's not your fault and what the signs are and what you can see in advance. So I know that that's been really healing for a lot of readers to really be able to forgive themselves because they have so much shame. It's like, hey, I'm so smart. How did I get taken? And I don't know if you remember this, Sadhvi, but the first line of the book is, my mother was
right. Yes.
My mother was right. And for most people who've been taken in by a toxic narcissist, there's somebody in their life that told them early on, this guy's not for you, or this woman's not for you. But by then you're kind of, you know, you want the drug high. And so, and you want to believe that they're in there. So it's one of these terrible things. You will recover from it. You will get through it. But it's horrible and it's painful.
Well, it's been so beautiful to be with you. And I'm so happy that all of our beautiful Facebook community has had the opportunity to meet you and to hear about not only this beautiful and exciting and uplifting and teaching, engrossing novel of The Love Thief, but actually to also get your wisdom around love and happiness and life and forgiveness. And I am just so excited to see how beautifully this book is doing. I've been with you throughout the 4.5 years of writing it.
Yeah.
And to see how beautifully it's doing is just such a great, great, great joy. And for all of you out there, if you haven't yet read The Love Thief, go online, order it today. It's available wherever you are, and you'll really, really, really enjoy the very, very well written and engrossing adventure of Holly's life. But as we've been talking about, you'll also really take away not just a gripping story, but actually lessons for your own life of love and self and letting go and opening and embracing and surrender. So read The Love Thief today. And so much love to all of you, and especially Arielle, to you. It's been really beautiful. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.